1 Medal of Honor for every 115 Americans killed. That's the ratio the war in Afghanistan produced over 2 decades. The standard was not bravery. It is what the military calls above and beyond the call of duty. What a handful of men did to meet that threshold began on a frozen mountaintop in the opening months of the longest war in American history. On October 7, 2001, American forces launched Operation Enduring Freedom in direct response to the September 11th attacks, targeting Taliban strongholds and al-Qaeda hideouts scattered across Afghanistan's harsh mountains and valleys. Over the next 20 years, the war shifted through phases: initial invasion, counterinsurgency, and eventual drawdown. Each phase was marked by fierce fighting in terrain that favored ambush and isolation. U.S. troops operated in small patrols, often cut off in remote outposts or threading narrow passes where a single radio call could mean the difference between rescue and disaster. In this environment, the Medal of Honor stood apart, reserved for acts of valor far beyond what even battle demanded. The criteria remained uncompromising: conspicuous gallantry, risk of life, and actions above and beyond the call of duty. Out of nearly 2,400 American combat deaths in Afghanistan, just 21 Medals of Honor were awarded, a ratio of 1 for every 115 killed. This rarity speaks not only to the intensity and unpredictability of modern combat, but also to the extraordinary standard required to be recognized with the nation's highest military honor. Before dawn on March 4, 2002, a Chinook helicopter hovered above Takur Ghar Ridge, its rotors kicking up snow in the thin mountain air. Without warning, enemy fire ripped into the fuselage. Bullets and rocket-propelled grenades slamming the aircraft as it struggled to hold position on a slope of 45 degrees. Forced to land under fire, the team spilled out into chaos. John Chapman, an Air Force combat controller, sprinted uphill through knee-deep snow, closing on an enemy bunker. He fought his way inside, engaging in close quarters as his teammates scrambled for cover. Chapman's last radio transmissions cut through the blizzard of gunfire. He refused evacuation, and he held his position until he was mortally wounded. Meanwhile, Senior Chief Britt Slabinski led a desperate push to reach the wounded, clearing a bunker under direct fire and dragging teammates through drifts up to waist height. Predator drone footage later confirmed the timeline. Chapman's stand and Slabinski's rescue unfolded in less than 10 minutes, each action shaped by the brutal slope and the blinding snow. On Takur Ghar, the mountain itself became as deadly as the enemy, and 2 men set the standard for valor at the highest altitude of the war. At over 4,300 meters in the Hindu Kush, Lieutenant Michael Murphy's SEAL team was pinned down by more than 30 Taliban fighters. Their only radio, a single ANPR C-152, lost its signal in the deep canyon. Enemy fire raked the rocks around them, and every second counted. Murphy knew the team's survival depended on getting a call out, but the terrain blocked all reception. He left cover, moving into the open on a bare ridge, exposing himself to a clear line of sight for both the satellite and the enemy. Bullets struck the ground at his feet as he dialed for help, relaying their position and the urgency of their situation. The radio signal was delayed by nearly 40 seconds as it bounced through a UAV relay, and it barely made it through. While Murphy spoke, a round hit him in the back. He finished the call, then crawled back toward his teammates, mortally wounded. His decision to risk everything for that call became a defining act of battlefield courage and loss, shaped by the unforgiving mountains and the limits of technology. The Korengal Valley, known to soldiers as the Valley of Death, became the setting for acts of pure instinct and courage. On April 14, 2007, Salvatore Giunta's squad walked straight into a Taliban ambush. Gunfire erupted from both sides of the canyon, pinning the patrol in a narrow kill zone. Giunta saw 2 insurgents dragging a wounded comrade away. Without hesitation, he sprinted 30 meters through open fire, reached his teammate, and drove the attackers back with his rifle. His action turned the tide in seconds, pulling a brother from the jaws of captivity. Just a year later, at Outpost Keating, Jared Monti's team faced a barrage of rocket-propelled grenades and machine gun fire from the surrounding ridgelines. When a fellow soldier lay exposed in the open, Monti made 2 attempts to reach him under relentless fire. On his 3rd try, Monti was struck and killed, but his final act allowed his comrade to survive the onslaught. In the same unforgiving terrain, Robert Miller led a patrol on June 28, 2009, when Taliban fighters unleashed a wall of machine gun fire from the high ground. Miller advanced alone, drawing fire to his position and buying precious seconds for his team to regroup and evacuate the wounded. He was fatally wounded in the process, but his stand gave his men a fighting chance. In these canyons, heroism was measured in moments, split-second choices that decided life or death. Combat Outpost Keating sat exposed on the valley floor surrounded by steep mountains on all sides, a position that left its defenders with nowhere to hide. At dawn on October 3, 2009, more than 300 Taliban fighters unleashed a coordinated assault, firing from the high ground and pouring rockets, mortars, and machine gun fire into the outpost below. The attack came from every direction, cutting off any chance of retreat or resupply. Inside the wire, Staff Sergeant Clinton Romesha moved between positions, rallying soldiers, organizing the defense, and calling in close air support with precision. He directed fire missions while under direct attack, using the outpost's limited cover to keep enemy fighters at bay. Meanwhile, Specialist Ty Carter manned his machine gun through a storm of bullets and shrapnel. Even after being wounded, Carter refused to leave his post, laying down suppressive fire that kept the enemy from breaching the perimeter. The defenders fought for hours, shifting from bunker to bunker as the Taliban pressed in. Romesha's leadership and Carter's determination helped hold the line until air support arrived, turning what could have been a massacre into a desperate stand for survival. Their actions at Keating became a testament to grit and sacrifice under siege, where every decision meant life or death for the men around them. A live grenade lands in the dust and chaos narrows to a single decision. In Helmand Province, Jason Dunham throws himself over an M67 fragmentation grenade, his body absorbing the blast meant for his squad. The lethal radius of that grenade, 5 meters, shrinks to the space beneath his flak vest. 3 Marines walk away with minor wounds. Dunham does not. The instinct to shield others with flesh and bone defines the highest cost of protection. On another Afghan road, Kyle Carpenter sprints 30 meters across open ground, bullets snapping past, to reach a wounded Marine pinned down by enemy fire. He drags his teammate to safety, every step exposed, every heartbeat a gamble. The carry is desperate and raw, the kind that leaves scars long after the shooting stops. That action is pure courage. In Kunar Province, a suicide bomber charges a U.S. patrol. Florent Groberg runs forward, tackles the attacker, and drives him away from the formation. The vest, packed with 10 kilograms of explosives, detonates at Groberg's feet. The blast is brutal, but dozens are spared. Groberg survives, torn by shrapnel, his act diverting a wave of destruction. His choice is sacrifice. In seconds, these men choose to stand between death and their brothers, and the cost is measured in lives saved and wounds carried forever. Leroy Petry's right hand was gone the moment the grenade exploded in his grip. He had spotted the device land near his men during a raid in Kunar Province and, without hesitation, picked it up to throw it clear. The blast took his hand but saved 2 Rangers standing just feet away. Blood poured from the wound, yet Petry stayed in the fight, applying his own tourniquet and radioing for support. He directed fire with his remaining hand, refusing evacuation until the position was secure. Later, a prosthetic hand, stamped with the Ranger emblem, became a symbol of that moment. Ryan Pitts fought through second-degree burns and shrapnel wounds after an RPG detonated near his observation post in eastern Afghanistan. Flames scorched his arms and face, but he crawled through the smoke to reach a wounded teammate. handing over a rifle and laying down suppressive fire. For nearly 2 minutes, Pitts kept the enemy at bay, calling in danger-close artillery while medics raced to his position. He stayed conscious until extraction, his grip on the fight unbroken by pain. Ronald Shurer's femur snapped as he slid down an icy slope in Lagman Province, but the medic dragged himself through gunfire to reach the wounded. He splinted his own leg with a torn uniform, stabilized 2 casualties, and coordinated airstrikes from the ground. For 12 minutes, Shurer kept his platoon alive under direct fire, refusing painkillers and evacuation until every man was safe. Each of these men turned catastrophic wounds into moments of defiance, reshaping what it meant to endure under fire. In the war's closing years, a final generation of Medal of Honor recipients stepped forward. Sergeant Major Thomas Payne led a rescue in Nangarhar, braving gunfire and collapsing walls to free hostages from a Taliban prison. Chief Petty Officer Edward Byers crossed a minefield in Lagman, shielding a captive with his own body while returning fire. Sergeant Matthew Williams charged a fortified bunker in Zabul Province, breaking an ambush and clearing the way for his team's escape. Captain William Swenson's convoy was trapped in the Korengal Valley. He coordinated air support, rescued the wounded, and led a counterattack. When Swenson's nomination vanished in a lost packet, the Army launched an investigation. That investigation led to a new rule. All top-level Valor Awards would be submitted electronically. Master Sergeant Earl Plumlee held the line at Forward Operating Base Ghazni, providing covering fire as medics worked. These late-war actions forced the Army to enact reform, ensuring acts of valor would never again be lost to bureaucracy. Acts of valor in Afghanistan remain rare not because courage is scarce, but because the standards are absolute. Today, each Medal of Honor is a living reminder. In war's chaos, extraordinary selflessness shapes history. The cost endures, and so does the weight of what these actions mean for us all.